from the time I was really little, I'd seen things and heard things that other people didn't always experience. But what really, really changed in, let's see, 2014 or so, my husband, I woke up and he was choking, and I looked over and I saw what was choking him. So it almost became like one of those scary movies where you grab the kids, you leave everything, and you leave the house and you never go back.
Welcome to Creepalachia. It is time to get the creepy part of Creepalachia today with Teresa, Racer, and Jess Madden. Teresa is with Teresa's Haunted History and all kinds of other things. And Jess is with, he was telling me Appalachian Ghost Tours, West Virginia Unseen. Is that part? Yep. All kinds of good stuff. Well, thank you all for coming to the studio today.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to talk all things creepy in Appalachia.
Yeah, I've looked forward to this all week. I just got back from Salem, and I think I talked to my first spirit.
Oh wow, that's awesome!
So I'm pretty pumped about that. I mean, I don't know.
Never forget your first.
yeah, exactly. Well, we was doing the spirit box thing, the Estes method, and I swear it had like a conversation. Which that episode's out now if anyone wants to check it out, where we went to Salem. But so let's start with Teresa. So give me some backstory on you. And how you started the blog and how you got into all this.
Okay, so it's a long soap opera how all this got started. But I am a native West Virginian. Lived here my entire life, and I've always been really drawn to the unexplained and the weird and the paranormal. A lot of people say they get into this field, because they've had some experience that they can't explain and want to learn more about. I honestly cannot pinpoint an exact reason or exact event why I was so drawn to this field. I do blame my grandparents for a lot of it. My grandparents are here, they came from Beckley. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah. In fact, thought we were almost going to go to their house when we got off Harper Road, but we went the other way.
Oh, cool. So they lived towards Bolt?
Well, they originally, when I first was born, they lived on 6th Street, so almost right downtown Beckley. And then they moved to, is that Bluestone down here?
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved to the that subdivision that's behind Woodrow Wilson.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so we lived in Charleston, growing up. I always lived in that area my whole life. But I would spend all summer long and, any school break and stuff in Beckley with my grandparents. And they were absolutely the quintessential Appalachians. I swear they came straight out of the mountains. But they had that Scots-Irish history thrown in with some Cherokee and Shawnee as well. And so a big part of their culture growing up was telling ghost stories. So whenever I'd come to spend the night, instead of telling me bedtime stories, they told me ghost stories.
Nice.
My grandpa would, drive me around town and be like, that's where so-and-so was murdered. And I know you talked about the Mad Butcher recently. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would drive me around, showing me that's where they found the body.
Well, how fun.
Yeah. And I'm under 10 years old at this time. Right. So really fun. But he's like, yeah, when you get old enough, we'll go back and we'll investigate. So I kind of had that ingrained in me from a really early age. But then when I was 10, my mom got remarried. And so we moved into this new house. And this was a new house. It was less than 20 years old at the time. We were only the second owner. The first owner was my stepfather's mother and his father, who had passed away. Found out later he actually passed away in the house. It was probably the one that we were all seeing. But it went from, just real basic stuff we'd see shadows or hear the doorbell ring and nobody was there. And it just progressively got worse and worse. So we were seeing full-bodied apparitions. We would walk into the kitchen and all the kitchen cabinets would be wide open. Our pets were terrified to be there. This was, started in, I was 10 years old going into middle school. And nobody, none of my friends wanted to have sleepovers at my house because they would call their, parents at 3 o'clock in the morning and be like, oh, we saw a ghost at Teresa's house. So nobody wanted to spend the night with me. And
yeah, well, that's sad, but also I'd wear it like a badge of honor.
It did. And it made me into the paranormal investigator I am today because my mom was super, super skeptical. And my mom was giving me these really blanket skeptical statements about, oh, well, that was just the, electricity surge and that was so-and-so. And I was like, I know not everything that we were experiencing was paranormal. Some of it did have a natural explanation. But I wasn't happy with these like real blanket statements that didn't make sense. And so I really started to get into the research part and reading everything I could and learning everything I could about it.
Yeah. You have an awesome blog. How many blogs have you written over the years, you think? Have you kept count?
Well, blog post, I think it's 1,500 maybe.
Heck yeah. Rookie numbers.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty crazy. Well, cool. All right, Jess, time for you. Where did you come from? How did you grow up and get into all this mess?
Well, I grew up in Boone County, actually. But from the time I was really little, I'd seen things and heard things that other people didn't always experience. But what really, really changed in, let's see, 2014 or so, my husband woke up and he was choking. And I looked over and I saw what was choking him. So it almost became like one of those scary movies where you grab the kids, you leave everything, and you leave the house and you never go back. Because I would have rather been so choked myself than to have seen it. And I realized that I had seen it earlier that evening in the mirror and thought that I was just saw my son or some weird, but it was a shadow. It was a shadow figure. And like that, that was what really propelled us. I had the house blessed. Everything went away for a good while. There was even handprints all over the wall that night that were way too big to be any of ours. So that really got us into it. And then we ended up joining a paranormal team to try to, because there was other people like us that had experienced things that, not everybody, other people told us we were crazy, but we met our people when we met our paranormal people. So here we are.
Yeah. And we're going to break this. It's going to be Paranormal 101 today. For people who have no clue what we're talking about, what is a shadow figure? So I kind of want to define these things as we go so people will kind of know, because that's an actual subject, right? Like as much as a witch or a ghost, I guess there's different kinds of ghosts, but what is a shadow figure? Is it basically what it says?
Well, yeah, basically what we could figure out and from the research is it's almost like that one in particular, one that's malevolent, like really going on the attack like that is a low-level demon. And that's, like I said, blessing the house, seemed to have gotten rid of it. But the other shadow figures, I don't think that are demonic in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, it's just literally seeing a shadow.
Just like so many other subtopics in the paranormal field, if we could tell you what a shadow figure was, then, we'd be rich, because everybody that you ask is going to give you a slightly different
And the truth is,
answer.
we just don't
we really don't know. What we do know is that there do seem to be different levels or different types of even shadow beings. I know a lot of people associate, the big, tall, inky, dark, black figure, sometimes seen with like a fedora or some sort of hat. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the most common, most prevalent. And that one does seem to be, sometimes people see it with like glowing red eyes and it gives off this big sense of dread. Is it demonic? Well, we don't really know. Is it interdimensional? Is it just a way that a normal human deceased entity is able to manifest? We don't know. But there are actually other classes, if you will, of like shadow beings. A lot of people will see the ones that are about 3 to 4 feet tall. Those seem more curious than malevolent or mean. The big tall ones, a lot of times you'll see those associated with like sleep paralysis issues. Then there's ones that almost seem not human in any form, but more like animals, like, or even some sort of like elemental. They'll look like a little rat or something, goes across. And a lot of times you'll see these just out of the corner of your eye, but there are people who have seen them like full on. The first shadow person that I ever saw, and my sister saw the same thing, was in broad daylight. And it was this inky black human form that walked across our backyard at like 3:00 in the afternoon on a sunny summer day. And instead of, the classic fedora that everybody reports, this guy looked like he was wearing a trucker cap. And he just kind of like, he was tall and lanky. He walked through our yard and just kind of disappeared.
Started the barbecue.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, all right, let's have some hot dogs. Oh, I gotta say, I hope y'all are ready for like a 7-hour podcast, because I'm just so happy you're here and I get to hear these things from people who actually know what they're talking about. So, all right, so there's different levels. So are we talking like, low level you mentioned? Is that terminology that you use? Is there a certain rating system, or is it kind of like, well, this one's low level and then high level is like, well, that one scratched the piss out of me. How does it work?
I mean, unfortunately, again, the paranormal field, especially the ghost hunting side of it, there's no regulations. There's no handbook, really. We have it, and it's just sad to say, because I know there was a lot of very intelligent, very knowledgeable people working in this field, but we honestly haven't made a whole lot of progress since Harry Price was doing this in the 1920s. We don't really know for sure a whole lot, really, to be honest.
Is that the founding father, Harry Price?
I would say so. Modern ghost hunting, Harry Price is probably the modern father of...
Is he from Appalachia?
Unfortunately, no.
Daggone it.
Yeah.
We can't have nothing.
He's not even from America, so we can't claim him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Harry. Rest in peace. All right. So we're going to walk through some experiences you all have had. I think that's some good groundwork set up on who you all are. So, Teresa, where do we want to start? Was there a certain time in your life where you said, I know you saw things when you was little, and your super awesome grandpa, right, was like, hey, look at all this, let's talk about, people getting murdered. Because I'm watching Walking Dead with my daughter right now. So sometimes I'm like, is this a good idea? I even asked her, I'm like, am I traumatizing you right now? Like, is this thing, like, ask your 10-year-old, are they being traumatized? And she's like, no, Dad, I know it's not real.
You're preparing her for the zombie apocalypse.
Exactly.
She'll know what to do and what not to do. I mean, that's good parenting right there.
Which it seems a little 2 days of our lives sometimes. I think it'll be a little more intense than what the show is, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you though. But Teresa, is there a certain experience that comes to mind where you was like, oh, okay, something's going on?
Oh, geez, I don't know. It took me a really long time to kind of come to terms with seeing stuff, because I do have a really skeptical side. And that's why, as I talked about before, when I started experiencing this stuff at this new house and I started to try to learn about this, then I was like, okay, that's what pushed me into ghost hunting, because I was like, okay, maybe I can use this knowledge that I've learned and my personal experiences and kind of help other people who are dealing with the same thing. But man, I'm trying to think, is there one thing that's happened that was really life-changing, or it's like, oh my gosh, there's absolutely beyond a doubt, there's something going on.
Yeah, like Jess seeing the shadow choke her husband.
Yeah, that would do it.
That's a problem. I mean, we got to admit. So
I think it's always like, it's been in the background so much and so accepted,
right?
That it was just like, oh, okay, whatever.
What was your first blog? Do you remember?
Okay, so it was Teresa's Haunted History of the Tri-State. Okay, and I'm not sure what the first entry was, because it didn't start out as a blog. How that whole thing started was the first paranormal group that I joined was Huntington Paranormal Investigations and Research. And we were kind of a new fledgling group in the early 2000s. This was even before Ghost Hunters was real popular. And so I found this group on an online message board, and I was like, oh, cool. So, we got together and we started, doing investigations, and we decided to kind of make things a little more formal and everybody have a role that they played. And for some reason, they're like, hey, Teresa, you like history. You want to be our group historian? And I'm like, okay, sure. That sounds good to me.
How all great things start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so part of that was at the time, this is like 2005, 2006. The internet still wasn't a great resource for finding locations to investigate. So we're a new group. We're trying to find locations. And there are a couple of websites that listed, state by state, okay, these are the haunted locations of the state. One in particular, I don't know if you've heard of Shadowlands. It's a great resource, but it's crowdsourced. So anybody that had an internet connection and a computer could submit a haunted site to this website and pretty much say whatever they wanted to about it. So it kind of ranged from, the places that were listed. Some of them were places that you had absolutely no idea where they were. Like, it didn't list like, well, this is this building at this address. It was, well, Papaw's barn is haunted down by, the creek in this holler.
Heck yeah.
It's like, okay, that's great for Papaw, but how do I get to this barn? And will I get shot if I, try to find the barn?
Turn left at the hanging stone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then others, the history was just so wrong. It was just embarrassingly wrong. So the first blog started as an internal forum post, and I would just find these locations and I would write a little paragraph about them, the true history of it, maybe a picture, maybe some links for more information and how to contact the place if it could be contacted. And we got to share that. We finally made it public and shared it with the public. And people were like, this is a great resource you're doing. Why don't you do a website? Well, at the time, I was a broke college kid, had no money for a website, had no skills to build a website. So I started a free website where I just kind of transferred the same thing. It was a picture of a haunted location and it was a little paragraph with some links. And that really blew up in popularity. So free webs, you got so much bandwidth free a month. I was getting so many hits to the site that you couldn't even access it after like the third or fourth of the month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I was like, well, shoot, I got to do something. And I didn't do anything until 2011. That's when I finally I better do something. Still didn't have any money. Still a broke college student after all those years. Now I had a 2-year-old son as well. So super broke and still didn't have the time, the energy, or the knowledge to build a website. So I switched it to Blogspot. And I started by moving everything over from the old blog onto that. But I do remember my first new post on that. It was the Apollo Theater.
Oh, nice. Where is that?
I don't remember. It's in the northern part of the state. Thinking maybe... Yeah, if you search for it, you can pull it up.
And those listening, go to Teresa's Haunted History of the Tri-State.blogspot.com. And we'll put a link in the description for people can
Teresa's info is actually how my team started to find places that, like one of the original teams I was on, started to find information on places that we could actually go and how the directions to get there. So I was totally fangirling when I met Teresa. I tell everybody, I was like, hey, this is Teresa. If you want to know anything about the state and anywhere that's haunted, if there's anybody that knows it, it's going to be Teresa.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I've sourced, I've done a story. I read yours about the monkey cemetery.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, which is crazy, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, so how big is your group, Jess and Teresa, that you're a part of? How many people are we talking that does this in the state? And it doesn't have to be exact numbers. I'm just curious.
I mean, just within let's see. I'm trying to count. Just within the two teams that we collaborate, they collaborate a lot together with West Virginia Unseen and AGT. There is active members. Teresa, do you have an idea? Are you counting in your head?
Okay, so there's probably altogether 10 to 12 regulars.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. And then we have people that are coming to help out when they can.
But we also are part of a discussion group in St. Albans that meets on the last Wednesday of the month and there's different presenters that come in. So we do and hang out with a lot of different teams and people in the field. The Wild and Weird guys are there a lot.
Hey, they're coming in, Ron and Joe.
Yeah, Ron and Joe,
Yeah, we
they're
work
our
with them a
buddies.
lot.
So we work with them a lot. And then we've got author friends that write horror and different things and get into the investigation side. But really a lot of things that got a lot of us into it was straight out the history of the places in West Virginia here. My first job that I got hired for was to teach West Virginia studies. So, and then hearing and like reading the paranormal side of it, my kids they love hearing that part of it, and it makes it more interesting to the history too. So,
yeah. How do we get in this group? Are we talking blood oaths? What do we do? Or is it kind of like, are you crazy or not? And then you kind of have a meter.
Well, it depends on what group. Because we do all these groups are, and we work with different groups, including different investigation groups. But the three that we talked about mainly here, they all have their own very specific purposes. West Virginia Unseen is an investigation group. They mostly do residential cases. We go into houses and help people who are experiencing paranormal activity. But while Appalachian Ghost Tours they open up these historic locations to the public. They work with historical locations to bring in tourism to some of these locations in southern West Virginia that just aren't seeing a lot of tourism dollars. And they kind of help get people to appreciate the history of their own hometowns.
These places, like part of the money proceeds go to the restoration,
everything is split,
keeping everything in good shape so that it will be around for longer.
That's nice. Do you find older structures being more active?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Not because you asked us about experiences earlier. We went to the Graham House, which is an amazing piece of history. But there was a replica one-room schoolhouse built on the property. And some of our scariest and craziest activity was in this replica schoolhouse that was there. So it wasn't even the original.
The schoolhouse that was built in 1996 was more haunted than the log cabin that was built in the 1780s.
What is this place?
The Graham House.
The Graham House, West Virginia?
It's close to Talcott and Lowell. Colonel James Graham House.
Colonel James Graham House. Okay. What's the backstory on this place? Is this the place?
Yeah, that's the place.
Okay. So I got it here on the screen so everybody can see. And anyone who's listening, it looks like an old cabin from the 1800s. I don't know, 2 stories. Looks really nice. Have some good fires and squirrel gravy.
It's absolutely beautiful inside.
Yeah.
It's huge for a cabin.
Yeah. So what happened here?
So back in the late 1700s, we were having a lot of border warfare with the native peoples in the area. And the Colonel James family they owned the cabin at the time. And right before that, there had been kind of some rumblings that there may be an Indian raid on the area. So
hate when that happens.
Yeah. So the Graham family was actually staying at a little fort across, down the ways a little bit. And they were staying there with a couple of different other neighbors and everything. But they're like, man, we really need to get home and, get our crops planted and taken care of. So they decided to come home, and they brought another fellow with them to help them out. And so that night they're in the house, and a couple of the kids are sick. So a couple of the kids are up on the second floor, in the bedroom up there. Now, Colonel Graham and a couple of the other men were guarding the house kind of on the first floor. But the Native Americans kind of snuck in on them and started shooting. They killed one gentleman, the guy that wasn't even in the family. He was just there to help take care of the crops. They killed him. He got shot right inside the door area. Colonel Graham, he was laying in front of the door on a bench where he was guarding it. So he was able to stop them from coming into the house. But as they were shooting and the chaos and they were barricading the main house, a couple of the Native Americans went around to the back of the house where there was a summer kitchen. And in the loft of the summer kitchen, 2 of the Graham children were sleeping up in the loft. So as they're coming around to that summer kitchen, they see one of the little enslaved persons that was living there trying to escape through the chimney of this kitchen. And they shot him, killed him, scalped him, unfortunately. And this, scared the kids really bad. So they started crying. And so the Native Americans started shooting up through the loft, and they hit the one boy in the kneecap. So they pulled him out, and they pulled his little sister Elizabeth out. The boy who was shot in the knee, they deemed he was too injured to be taken with them back to the Chillicothe area. So they shot and killed him as well.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. And then they kidnapped the young girl. There's no proof of it, but they think that at least one of the Native Americans was fatally wounded and was buried down the road, which they found the skeleton later, and Colonel Graham claimed the jawbone for his own and used it as a gun rack. That's no longer in the house, luckily. But the girl that was kidnapped, she was gone for many years. And then as a young teenager or an older teenager, they were able to negotiate her return. But she had a really, really bad time, adjusting back. The house stayed in the family for years and was a private residence up until the 1980s. And now it's run by an historical preservation society. And it's the people who are the caretakers of it that run the preservation society that are the ones that have really had a lot of experiences there. I know one of the first experiences they had, the gentleman's mother-in-law was in the house, and she started to go up the stairs to the second floor. And she said that as she was walking up, there was a lady in a white dress. This lady did not look like a ghost. She did not look see-through or ethereal. She just looked like a lady wearing a period costume. And as she approached her, she disappeared. The little grandson of the caretaker kept saying that he saw a brown man. So we don't know if that meant brown as an enslaved or as a Native American. He just called him a brown man. And then later on, the caretaker himself saw this brown man as well. I got to investigate before Appalachian Ghost Tours got to investigate. I got to investigate with my previous group, and we were up there, and we consistently on several occasions heard a woman's voice, like so plain and clear that we ran outside thinking that the neighbors, had come down to see what was going on.
Wow. Okay. So this is so when you say replica.
So this is the original house. The log cabin is
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a 1-room schoolhouse. It's not in this picture. It's behind, like way back. Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the yard, well back from it.
Is what's back here? Oh,
That's more house.
Yeah, and there's
Gotcha.
like an add-on to the house too, where they host all kinds of they host
Community
weddings and
dinners,
community events.
yeah.
It's really nice.
Well, how precious.
At the house inside is gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks
It's
beautiful.
really well taken care of to be so old.
Yeah. So when you get prepared to go on an investigation for this, is there a checklist, or are you like, okay, I've got my holy water, check. I've got, what do you run through?
So I think there was, they're
We run through
responsible.
making sure everything that is charged up and has batteries, although that does not last.
That's the most important part, is making sure your stuff's charged up.
I gotta talk about that. So I always heard the battery zap, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. Well, we're in this house, and it's like this, I don't know. It's on lists. Now, how credible are these lists? I don't know, but it's like the second most haunted Airbnb in America, which was cool. The Henry Derby House in Salem. But I had 2 angles running, and we did the Estes method in 2 rooms and didn't get much activity, and then was like, well, we'll try this other room for the last try. And so I put my camera up the same way. I changed the battery grips out right before that, so they both had the same amount of battery. Had 2 cameras, and the wide camera died in 5 minutes. And these batteries last over an hour at least.
Yeah, go to Trans-Allegheny and you probably barely can make it into the building before your stuff dies.
Really?
That's what happened to me at the schoolhouse in here. I had to run out because they were doing a live and asked me to bring a light out there. So I bring, my laser grid light. And as soon as I walk out there, we set the laser grid light out. It dies within like maybe a minute and a half. And then the walkie-talkie in my pocket dies, even though it had been working fine all night. And then my phone, the battery, everything that I had on my person, the batteries were sucked dry within like 5 minutes of being out there.
I wonder if AT&T plans this. They're like,
probably
paranormal location, just we're going to zap it. But why do you think that is? Is it the energy in the room that's kind of like, you know what, that's mine, I'll take it? Or...
Well, we even offer, hey, if you need some energy, you can't take it from us, but you can use these batteries. You can, a lot of times we'll even have an EM pump that puts out, the energy that they can use so that they don't drain our batteries as much. But
that's always been, since I've been in this field, that's the accepted theory that yes, they use that energy to be able to manifest. Unfortunately, I really haven't been able to prove that, and I don't think anybody has. But we do try to see, okay, like after our batteries, start draining, does the activity ramp up? Is it stronger? Is it more prevalent? Are we going from shadows to seeing actual apparitions afterwards? And unfortunately, I can't really prove either way.
Right. Well, we can lie, Teresa.
We can.
No, I'm just kidding.
And many people do. That's the problem with this field.
But we're going to tell you straight out, we just don't know. That's literally what you're going to get from us. It's like we do our best to try to figure it out. And there are so many things that we would love to say, hey, yes, this is this, and this. But honestly, there are no real experts in this field because there's really, unless, we die and come back and, do it again, there's no real way that you could possibly prove 100% without a doubt that this is who you're talking to or this is what's actually happening.
Sure.
So we try to collect that data in hopes that, one day we can really make those connections.
Shoot, yeah. And we're going to. We got to stay positive.
I am positive that but in my lifetime, we will have some major strides.
Well, here's the thing. I'm 95% sure that it's something.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know what it is because I'm telling you, this conversation I had in Salem was crazy.
Yeah.
And the Estes method, for those who don't know, you put noise canceling headphones on, and then you have another person in the room ask the questions, and then the person with the headphones on, the spirit box is basically this thing that runs through radio stations, and it pulls words from those radio stations, and they just repeat the words. And the things line up so much.
We've had some crazy
We've had two people doing Estes at one time.
Yeah.
And they're having a conversation with each other.
Nice.
And not knowing that they're literally,
Where's this at? I want to watch this. Did you record that?
So we've done this. I know we had some success at that at the Campbell Flanagan Mural Museum in Hinton. And also with my previous group, SRI, we did this at the Logan Corporation in Logan. And Brian and I were the ones under Estes, and we were presumably talking to two gentlemen that had beef with each other that worked in this location. And we were hurling slurs and insults at each other. And we were like, on the other side of the room. It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How fun. And I say fun with all due respect, obviously. But it is kind of, I find it's kind of comforting in a weird way. It's like, there's more than just, worrying about my car payment and mortgage and doing all these day-to-day things. It's like, there's something here that we're all connected to.
Absolutely.
I just don't know what it is. Maybe it's the mushrooms. The oldest living organism on the planet.
And once you really start getting into this field, even going beyond the ghost stuff and start going into UFOs and the cryptids, it's all connected. Like, it is so crazy once you start connecting
because I didn't believe in any of the other stuff when I started this, but at this point, I've seen so many things that, like, for me to say that anybody's crazy or that any experience is invalid, I can't do that.
Well, if someone came and was like, "Yeah, Bigfoot brought me here," you'd be like, "Okay, you're ridiculous." Okay,
I would listen to him.
We'd listen, but
I might still be thinking, how did who taught Bigfoot to drive?
And we would question. Yes, we would respectfully question. That's the skeptical side. Okay, let's get the whole story.
Right.
You know, what substances maybe did you also take on the ride over here?
And that's important too, that we want to know, like, especially when you go into residentials, because like I said, the other team, we did a lot of residentials helping people who are like, they're terrified of their house. They're terrified of what's going on. So, but when we go in, you know, one of the questions in our questionnaire is, are you on any medications that could possibly induce, and some people take offense to that, but we really, like, we've gone in and somebody would have, I know that one place we went, somebody had up on a fireplace, had all of their meds sitting. And I was like, that's antipsychotics.
That's their trophies.
It's like, have you taken this recently? Because you might want to consider.
Have you missed your meds?
He's like, y'all want a couple green beans in the kitchen? Come on, let's go now.
But it is important, you know, that even if you are on some sort of substance or have some sort of mental illness, that doesn't negate your...
No, because you could actually, that makes you possibly more of a target.
So we have to really stay objective, but still get the whole story. Plus, especially in the cases of these residential cases, play the social worker role as well. And
well, how nice. Y'all are doing so many roles. I mean, and I'll tell you, the biggest fear I have, I'd never hit the vape, get ripped out of the frame and go on one of these things. I would be so paranoid.
Yeah.
I'd probably call the police within 10 minutes and be like, listen, someone's here to kill me. I don't know who it is. You got to come help. But so I wouldn't suggest that. Yeah. Can't see him. But okay. So, all right, we got a tool bag here. I'm going to be purchasing some equipment because I'm super amateur and green, and I just depend on you all to know what you're talking about. So what do we have here, Teresa? Tell me what to buy.
It's such a mess right now. Everything's just kind of thrown in there from the last investigation. You want to talk about some of the stuff you use? Jess is more tech oriented than I am. I know enough to know that I don't know enough.
I'm not one of our tech people. Absolutely not. They don't let me touch the tech stuff because we set up cameras and stuff, especially in residential places. But yeah, they don't let me touch stuff because I break it.
Nice.
Anyway, but a lot of the stuff we do, I mean, you have your basic, your EMF meters. Tri-field is another thing that you would definitely want to have if possible. It measures 3 different types. It's got microwave signal, EMF signal. What's the other one?
ELF, extremely frequency.
It looks like magnetic signal.
Magnetic, yeah.
Maybe. It's got standard and weighted. Okay, so is this kind of what you use, kind of like this?
Yes, that. Okay. And what's really interesting with that, we were at Blennerhassett, and Susan, another member of our team, and I were sitting there working with that, and we would tell that what number we wanted it to get to, and it would respond somehow and go directly to it.
Oh, wow.
We also did that with one of the radiation detectors, which, by the way, I definitely don't recommend. I was told later that it was a horrible idea to tell, a radiation detector to, hey, can you reach I don't know, 29 or some crazy number on that, and it follow suit.
Oh, wow. Okay. So then you got radiation poison. Is that what we're talking about
pretty
here?
Pretty much. It's a possibility.
You started a Chernobyl.
Yeah. Like on the way up here, we were actually talking about that. It's, did they actually raise the radiation level or did something manipulate the innards of the device itself to show that?
Well, if they raise the radiation level, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And that's what we were discussing too. It's like, I know mentally, psychically, I don't think that I'd have the ability to raise radiation, but how do spirits? Then that's where we were getting into in our weird time jump that we managed to get here in 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh. What usually takes an hour to get here, we made in 35 minutes.
And she didn't speed really very much.
Yeah. Oppenheimer is dead. So he did create the bomb. So, maybe he's doing that elsewhere. I mean, I'd say he regretted it, but Anyway, I mean, that's borderline terrifying. You know, we got to worry about some rogue dictator dropping nukes. Now we got to worry about a dead dictator dropping nukes. So who knows? But all right, so we got the EMF detector, we got the tri-field. You do not suggest a radiation.
I mean, I don't suggest playing with it like that.
Yeah, definitely have one, but don't ask them to raise it for you.
Gotcha.
At least not more than a point or two, because
it's called a Geiger counter, right?
Yes.
Is that what it is? Okay, gotcha. All right, I got them both in my Amazon cart. What else we doing?
Maglite. But however,
got 3 of
you
those.
you can get question answers. However, I would not count them unless you have multiple levels of validation, because you're going to get this especially when the wild and weird guys come here, they're going to go over and over and over on multiple level of validation, and they are 100% right. So not just going by one piece of equipment, you need multiple things.
Yeah. I was talking to Joe and I was like, yeah, I don't know anything, man. I just go along, tell jokes. He's like, well, we actually, here's our process. We going through it. And I'm like, oh, I hope he doesn't think I'm making fun. I'm not. I just tell knock jokes. And then you all find the devil and Satan and ghosts and all this stuff. And then you have proof for it. So yeah, well, I'm pumped to talk with them about the tech side of it. So that's good to know.
Yeah, they're real big into the tech part of it. We also use stuff that everybody is going to know, the voice recorders. Still, EVP is probably one of the least controversial types of evidence. EVP, electronic voice phenomena. As long as you are holding up strict protocols, you are video recording your sessions, that's probably going to be some of your best evidence.
And I may be able to play you an EVP here in a few minutes.
Okay.
That is very clear, and see if you can figure out what it says. I'll have to find it.
Okay.
But we also use a variety of full spectrum cameras, IR cameras. We even have a thermal camera.
IR camera. I'm running out of money, Teresa.
I know.
Yeah. No, you will. And then you have REM pods.
See, and you don't have to go with the $3,000 one. The $300 one does just as good.
Ooh, these are cool.
Yeah, and I've got one with me if you want to play with mine.
Yes, please. All right. For the small price of $335.91, you can get a FLIR TG165X thermal imaging camera with bullseye laser. I like it.
And that's the FLIR brand, so that's one of the best brands.
Oh, FLIR, okay.
Yeah, so you can get ones that are even cheaper than that. That still do a pretty good job for what you're looking for. One of the important things that you always want to look at when I tell people, what equipment should I buy? Really do your research first. Don't go straight to the ghost equipment websites. You can take a look at those, but see what they're selling and marketing to ghost hunters.
Right.
Find out what it's actually measuring, and then see if you can find, a much cheaper version that does the exact same thing.
Gotcha. So you think this is a good one?
Is that the FLIR one?
Yeah, FLIR.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend
add
the FLIR
to cart.
one.
Let's go. There we go. Next.
But as much as we want, none of this stuff can prove that ghosts exist. It can just prove that there's some sort of change.
Yes, it can. It can prove it. Daggone it.
It could prove that there's some sort of change in whatever field it's measuring.
I wonder if they have Geiger counters on
they
Amazon.
do. Yeah, they definitely do. That's the kind that we usually use, that top one or that yellow one.
This one, right? This yellow one? All right, I like yellow. Add to cart. Thank you very much. All right, next we got, what's that one? The tri-field monitor. Okay.
And all of, the tri-field, the K2 meter, all of these are designed, they're not designed to find ghosts. They're designed to measure EMF fields. And a lot of people have kind of turned that into ITC, transcommunication, because they light up. They have nice little lights. And so you can be like, oh, well, light up to red if,
We like lights, Teresa.
We like lights.
Add to cart, tri-field next. Okay, what was that one? What's the one with the lights?
That's the K2.
K2
is probably the one you're thinking of.
Monitor. All right. I hit some kind of random button wrong here. K2 monitor. All right. No, that's not it.
Just do K2.
K2.
Yeah.
Okay. K2. What if we put ghost next to it? So I did do like a double blind test. You were mentioning Jess. So we did this app. It's called, and I don't know. I'm not endorsing this thing, but I'm just telling you it was weird. It's called Ghost Tube, and it just pulls out words kind of the same way. And those two, the Estes, the person under the Estes method, and that were kind of saying things that lined up. The app said the name Anthony, which is the person's husband that had the headphones on, and he was in the room. And right after that, she said red flag. Right after that, and I'm like,
that's funny.
Ooh.
Okay, so my little hot take on that. So yeah, we use those apps because they're a lot of fun, especially when we're talking with the public. There's a reason why the Ovilus that does the same thing. It has that bank, that, definition, of the bank of words that shoot out. There's a reason why that is so expensive and the GhostTube app is free. Because when you have an app on your phone, if you look at the permissions when you sign up for it, it can use the data on your phone and the speaker. So if anybody said that guy's name, Anthony, then it could pick up and internally use that as to come out.
I know we didn't say it verbally there. No. No one heard it until now. He was in the room.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
but if that was in the contacts of the person's phone,
so it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I'll make sure. But the person's phone was not her phone.
So definitely, and just like Jess was talking about, multiple layers of validation. Yeah, that is absolutely awesome. So the more you can say, okay, well, this couldn't have been true. This couldn't have been true.
Yeah.
This said this said that. But yeah, that's the reason why those are free, or like a couple bucks a month. And the actual Ovilus is selling for what is it up to now? Like $500, $600.
Ovilus?
Yeah, I paid $600 for my Ovilus, and
you gotta work for
charging.
It
quit charging, and then
I had the first Ovilus ever, and it just died. It finally just died.
It needs to be completely.
Is that
fixed.
on Amazon? Ovilus.
I don't think so. I think
Ovilus. You'll find it.
I don't think that they are on Amazon. I think they were Digital Dowsing is the one that sells them.
There's a new company too that's selling one that's exactly the same thing, but it's a little bit cheaper.
Gotcha. Oh, what's this? EMT,
oh yeah, we use those too. REM pods.
REM pod. That's what it is.
It is basically like a theremin. So the little antenna shoots up. It creates a little field around it. If that field is broken, then all the pretty lights will light up.
This looks cool. Is this a good brand? What is this? Hey, why not?
You can find them for a lot cheaper than that. So I would probably, look around.
Let me price. Okay. Let's price shop here.
Some of them you have like little ghost stickers that come with them too.
Really?
I think
there's the K2 that you're talking about, the EMF meter.
Right here?
Yeah, that's probably an off-brand K2.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But they all do the same thing.
Off-brand, name brand, they all work the same.
Heck yeah. Well, I tell you what, before I go broke, I'm going to have to investigate this stuff. But I got my cart started. So yeah, and listen, it's a free app. I'm sure that they're like, let's throw in some words, Harry, in the code.
We've had some crazy stuff.
I mean, we've had things that fit in 100% and that could not have come from any of our phones, especially in locations that we hadn't really been or talked about, and just pull it out and then there it is.
And what you had happen, and that happens to us so often. Somebody will be doing Estes, and then somebody else will have that app playing in the background, and they will complement each other. Mm-hmm. They will either say the exact same thing or
it's a big coincidence.
It is. It's definitely.
And if you wanted to do it your own way, you could get the spirit box, and do it that way without, where you're listening yourself, which is, it's hard sometimes to pull the words out of there. I mean, you have to be really focused a lot of times, but then sometimes our experiences, we've gotten the EVP, which I'm trying to find. I can't seem to find it because it's a couple years old, but we were at just an individual's location, and what we heard on the recording, because we had a recorder sitting next to the spirit box, it's not even the stuff we heard out loud. It came through the white noise, and we had about 2.5 hours of nothing but help me.
Oh,
That's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay, that's weird you say that because Megan had the same thing. She had help 3 times.
that's
And
a
she
big
was like,
one.
it sounded like it was in the static. It didn't sound like it was from a station.
Right.
And that's always sad because help me does seem to come up a lot.
And you do, like, you know, a lot of times, especially when we're doing private residences, if they want help, a couple of my team are pretty experienced with going in and cleansing and trying to help someone to possibly move on, you know, as much of that as we could possibly know about what to do. And it seems like the air is clearer and afterwards and things get better. But
There's something there. And I'm not like, I don't know. I don't consider myself religious. I'm agnostic kind of, but if I ran one of these groups, I'd have a priest, I'd have a preacher, I'd have
we're multiple religions in our group. Like,
Sure.
I'm Christian, so I mean, I'll go in and say a prayer
Sure.
and different things, and then some of our people are Wiccan, and they'll go and do that. So I mean, we have multiple religions, and it's not. You know, honestly, if something is not the same religion as you, do you think they're going to believe you and respond to your particular, you know, hey, this is how you cross? They're not going to listen to you if that's not what they would believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
That's awesome. Well, if everyone would join a paranormal group, we may change the world, y'all.
Yeah.
That's great though. Because I mean, yeah, or literally, that's how I approach it. I'm like, I don't know.
And that's why, you know, we network with the paranormal community, but others as well. So, you know, if we have a client that calls us in and they're practicing Buddhist, then we can get a perspective on, okay, this is what their beliefs in the afterlife are. If their potential ghost is grandma or something, okay, well, then we've got somebody that's more knowledgeable about that area than we are.
Although the Buddhist ghosts don't make much noise, they're too busy.
Yeah, they're
too busy meditating, so you don't hear them. So it's like, well,
yeah.
All right, that joke fell flat. All right, so what else do we need? I see something that looks like some kind of a sound cone.
Oh yeah, parabolic mic. So you'll see that a lot with like Bigfoot hunters. That just amplifies sound. In the ghost hunting realm, it's really handy because disembodied voices are fairly rare. Every once in a while you'll get them. So we have picked up disembodied voices on there. But really, it's good for if you're in an older building that's not in great shape, hearing the little rustling of mice or raccoons that might be in the building.
Mm-hmm.
You can definitely pick that up on there.
Nice.
But yeah, we've heard some crazy stuff at Old Hospital in College Hill. We were using that, and we picked up a little girl up on the 4th floor crying for her daddy.
Mm. Oh, now I'm depressed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That sucks.
unfortunately, there seems to be us picking up a lot of things with kids, and that's always the hardest. And then you also got to question, is that really a kid, or is that something that wants you to think it's a kid?
Sure. Yeah. How interesting. We're getting ready to go. Have you been to the Willard Hotel?
No.
In, it's near Grafton. Near
Oh,
Grafton.
yeah, I think I've heard of it.
Okay.
I mean, we're always looking for road trip places.
Yeah,
to go.
I think that's one of the ones that are kind of newer about, you know,
This was a place that was built when trains were the big deal
Mhm.
in the state. I don't know much about it. Do y'all know Adria Johnson?
Yeah.
Okay. You know Adria. Okay. Well, she has all the knowledge. I'm just like, derp, derp, derp. You know, I'm like, just take me places, give me an Alani, feed me. I'll tell jokes. You tell the stories. But yeah, we're going there, and we're going to the Philippine mummies.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah, which is crazy.
There's a lot of great newspaper articles about how they were procured from Trans-Allegheny, and even some documentation about maybe they think they know at least, you know, who one of them at least is.
Yeah. And speaking of Tala, Trans-Allegheny, I just booked overnight filming in August.
Nice.
So I don't know how that's going to go, but we're going to go to all the places, hear the stories, and you know.
I have yet to be able to stay overnight at Tala.
Well, it's kind of, I say overnight, but it's going to be like 4 to midnight type thing, because I want to get some footage during the day and at night.
Oh, yeah.
And plus, I'm almost 40. I gotta have sleep.
Bedtime is 10.
yeah. So
I think that's the toughest part about ghost hunting now, because I've been doing this for over 20 years.
And the drive home when we're pretty far away, and you're like, and my husband was just yelling at me like, you got to stay awake because somebody's got to keep me awake while I'm driving. And I'm like, but you don't. He's like, I tell him I try to talk to him, and he doesn't really respond. He's like, yeah, but ignoring you keeps me awake. So
right.
I'm like, well, okay, then.
I know exactly how that is, because I'm like, I'm sitting there coming up with, I'm like, did I ever tell you that story about that country song when I was a kid? And then Jenna's like, yes, I've heard it like 4 times. And then I'm like, okay, well, let me point out one little tidbit that I left out there you may not know about. And then eventually I'm like, I'm out of stories. Like, you got to say something. And she'll be snoring. So
yeah.
That's usually how it goes. But yeah, so that's funny. All right. So give me another location. I love that story about that cabin. Is there another place that comes to mind? Tell me about the monkey cemetery. A lot of people don't know what this is, or the potential.
Oh, I should have checked my notes. I write so much stuff like all the time that it's hard to keep track of all the details. But yeah, so the monkey cemetery, this whole process got started with me because my husband and my son and I, we were going to go find all of the the Pomeroy Foundation Legends and Lore historical markers. We were trying to hit as many of those as we could. And we saw one listed on the website for a monkey cemetery. And we're like, what the heck is, this is monkey cemetery. Well, we couldn't find, of course, where it was actually the marker was supposed to be. And we found out that it was because it had been removed or never installed. But yeah, like during the 1800s in the same Big Bend tunnel that, is famous for John Henry and Hinton, there was an instance where a circus train was going through the tunnel and they got stopped, and they were in there long enough and the tunnel's, pretty narrow and the steam engine is going, and they couldn't get the train moving fast enough, and those fumes overtook some of the circus animals. And so the story came out really in the 50s. This guy who claimed to have worked for the circus wrote this article for the local paper and was talking about there was 300 monkeys that died in this circus accident, and they were buried in a mass ditch grave in Ronceverte. Is that how you pronounce that?
Ronceverte is what I say. Yeah. I don't know. I've got
Ronceverte. We'll call it that.
Teresa, you want to make people upset? Say the name of their town wrong.
I know.
Okay,
I live in Hurricane, so people call us Hurricane all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and I started really looking into this because I was like, man, that is a crazy experience. 300 dead monkeys buried in a ditch, in this little town. And I started pulling the newspaper articles for it. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. Because for one thing, I found the newspaper articles for it. Yeah, this event actually did happen. Monkeys did die in that train tunnel, but nobody could tell us how many actually died. Most of the newspaper articles ranged from 16 to 100. And still, that's a pretty devastating. The name of the circus wasn't the same circus as this gentleman had, published in the 1950s. The method of burial wasn't the same. All the newspaper articles were saying, no, they weren't buried in a ditch. They were cremated and put into an urn that was buried, nearby that location, but not in a ditch. And it really got me kind of thinking that I know a little bit about West Virginia history, especially in the 1950s. And I was wondering if this guy wasn't kind of using that story as a thinly veiled racist commentary on how many African Americans died building that tunnel.
Oh wow, yeah, I never thought of that.
Because we know John Henry because of legend, but there were so many others that were never named, and that wasn't the only train tunnel that this happened. All the train tunnels, they used a lot of African American labor, especially prison labor, to build these tunnels, especially even the Hawk's Nest.
Hawk's Nest is crazy. Yeah. Over 700 deaths, potentially more. Yeah.
So maybe I'm reading too much into that and turning a crazy story that,
well,
but
it's humans. We still are, but we were insane. I mean, just the craziest stuff happening. And still to this day. But so you found a bunch of different numbers. There's newspaper articles of like, some would say like 16 and 25. Some would say 100, different things like that. You never really figured out exactly.
And none of them were ever close to 300. The closest was 100. And it's interesting because I do a lot of historical newspaper research, and they weren't quite particular about fact checking, and sometimes things were just completely made up to sell newspapers. But yeah, so who's going to look, because a lot of these, that article came from Kansas. Who in Kansas is going to try to fact check whether 100 monkeys in West Virginia died or not? They're going to read that and be like, oh man, that's a really interesting story. And
yeah, they can't even do it now with Google.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this one says 16, another article. So yeah, I definitely recommend y'all reading Teresa's blog on this. I did a whole post about it. So thank you. I appreciate it. But I tagged you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I try to make sure and source when I can. So yeah, crazy. And there's a monument there of John Henry, right?
Yeah.
In Huntington or in Hinton. Hintington. I'm just combining all the names.
I think Talcott claims that.
I think the last time that we saw the monument, they had pretty much whitewashed. They're cleaning the statue to
They're repainting him. So
John Henry is white at this moment.
Oh, he's gold. I've got some pictures on my Facebook page if anybody wants to see him. Yeah, we pull up and we're expecting, because the original John Henry statue is painted black. We pull up and he is like a bright shimmery gold color, and we're like, what the heck happened to John Henry?
Is it being restored?
It's being restored.
Oh, okay.
As far as we have heard, because he does get vandalized every once in a while.
Which is ridiculous.
He's been shot. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah.
People get out the holler and they're like, let's see what we can do, boys. Here. That's awful though. Well, that's good to know, because some people you may get upset when you're not realizing what's going on. I mean,
it was shocking. We're like, oh my gosh, what'd they do to John Henry? Why is he gold?
Yeah, for sure. All right. Give me another. I'm going to keep on. I'm going to tell you to tell me stories, Teresa, all day, because you're like, I don't really remember much. And then you hit me with this like 8 minutes of pure gold.
I know. I can ramble on about paranormal.
Yeah, it's perfect. So it looks on here. You got Haunted West Virginia, Haunted Ohio, Haunted Kentucky, Haunted America. Where all have you all done overnights in particular in West Virginia?
Gosh,
give us like
in the last year we've been.
Well, I just joined West Virginia Unseen a couple of months ago. Like I said, I've been doing this for well over 20 years. I've been in 3 different paranormal groups. There's a lot of places that I've spent the night at.
We need like a top 5. We gotta give people a bucket list.
What do you think would be the top 5 that?
Tell me about your Tala experience. You was talking about the batteries. Did you ever have any kind of activity at Trains Allegheny or?
Yeah, well, I have a picture that I took, and we're just on a flashlight tour, and it's just like an evening flashlight tour, and we're with a group, but there's a little alcove, and the door is barred shut, so you can't get into the patient room. But I took a picture inside this little alcove, and it didn't see it when I was standing there. But my picture shows this man and a little girl. There was no kids allowed on this tour. This was little girl, like 4 or 5-year-old little girl with pigtails that is standing in this photo. And the girl is partially see-through. The man looks like it's full on, like just me or you standing there, but yeah. And then there was another point where a guy that was with us, a friend of mine, there's a bunch of people goofing off and saying this crap ain't real, blah 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 blah, and then we hear a voice from behind us that says, I'd smack that. Well, I won't finish it because you
can cuss, Jess.
Yeah, no, you can bleep me out, but no, they were going like, I'd smack that out. And it was an
Graphic.
old woman's voice. And it turns out the guy that was with me, his great grandmother had actually been there as a patient. And he's like, man, that sounded like grandma. And I'm like, maybe it was.
Yeah.
Because so Tala is definitely interesting. Your stuff will die. I've never really felt scared in Tala. I felt more in most areas, except for maybe on the woman's ward. It's a little sketch, but
I need a good night vision camera. Do you know of any?
Really depends on what attachments you get for it, is where,
Gotcha.
IR, lights attached to it.
and then even not just IR, there's different. You could use thermal IR.
A full spectrum camera that I use is called the Phasm camera. They sell it through Ghost Stop, and that's excellent, but it doesn't have a huge range of vision on it, so you kind of don't get to do a lot of close up work with it.
Gotcha. Is this it?
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
Do you know the name of that new piece of equipment that Carl brought on that last investigation?
I'm not sure what that's called,
because I really want one of those.
Yeah, it's an EDI, but not from the brand that made EDI. It does everything that the EDI does.
Yeah, because our EDI pretty much didn't last any time before it broke.
EDI.
It's just it's a little device that measures everything and records it, graphs it out for you on your computer. So you would download the information to the computer and it'll track the temperature fluctuations, EMF fluctuations. I think it even does probably barometric pressure.
Yeah.
A bunch of different things. And so it all goes back to that layers of validation, you can see it in graph
little
form.
Piece of equipment that he got from Ghost Stop. Yeah, it was from Ghost Stop, and I can't.
Would Ghost Stop be the Amazon I should go to?
They're fairly reputable. Well, they're really
Some
reputable.
things are more expensive there, and you can find a different. But yeah, Ghost Stop definitely. If you're looking at least to see have an idea of what you might want, Ghost Stop.
The good thing about Ghost Stop is they are very communicative. So if you have a problem with your piece of equipment or questions, you can easily contact them and they'll help you out.
Okay.
They have a brick and mortar store in Virginia.
Yeah, they just opened up their first brick and mortar.
All right, Ghost Stop. If you're listening, you got to give Teresa some commission because I'm about to drop, I'm about to drop a couple mortgages on some stuff. How fun. All right. So let's see. Where else? Have y'all been to Parkersburg location? We used to talking about
I've
the Blennerhassett.
Blennerhassett was very, very active.
In what way?
Well, there was a trip my husband and I just went to get away one evening, and we were in a room that wasn't one of the ones that were necessarily listed as thinking of being haunted. It wasn't near the area where the former serial killer was said to have his apartment that was used to be there, but it was on the second floor, and we weren't planning on really ghost hunting or anything, but I thought, let's set up a flashlight and stuff anyway. Well, it wouldn't quit going off, and at one point I felt the bed next to me go and lower down and felt like something up against my leg, and I'm like, somebody just lay down beside me. That's fun. But still, it was like, I'm really tired. I'm going to sleep. So a little bit after we went to sleep, we hear a really loud crash. And I get up to look because I was like, somebody come in our room. And the coat hangers in the closet are all moving back and forth. So I slammed them together. And sure enough, same sound. And even a little later after that, still trying to sleep, we're come on, please just let us sleep tonight. We hear another big crash, and it's the ice bucket lid hits the ground.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that had been sitting there all night. And then probably about a month later was one of the Paracons that was up there. And we go back to do some things and help out with tours and stuff where Adra was hosting. And then at that point, Eric and a couple of people walked past that room, and they didn't know what room we stayed in or anything. And they're like, whoa, this hallway feels weird. sure enough, it was right next to the room that we had stayed in.
Ooh.
So,
do you ever get cold? Is cold a thing?
Yeah,
it is, but it's not necessarily, because sometimes it's hot. Hot can be a thing too. Like temperature can go up as well.
Mm-hmm.
That happened. The cold thing happened to me when we were staying at Glen Ferris Inn one time. So after our investigation, we rented this, one of the suites up on the 3rd floor. And I went to bed. I was like internally cold. And it was a cold winter day, but it's nice and cozy inside the hotel. I shouldn't have been that like internally cold. And I was freezing. And finally I managed to fall asleep. And then I woke up and I was like drenched in sweat because I had like 20 blankets on me. And I was like, oh, well, I'm glad that left. But we hear that sometimes though on EVP and on the spirit boxes and stuff too a lot. I'm cold. And
so your investigation, is there a step 1 or is it like, we'll go in and kind of wing it?
Well, we will go in and do baselines a lot of times just to get readings. That is your baseline, what you can tell where power sources are. That's things that are, EMF is automatically going off before you even ask any questions and stuff. So you have an idea of what might be interfering so that you have less contamination, I guess.
And ethically, I feel like I should tell you that we have like a set checklist, this is what we need to do in which order. But we've been doing this for so long. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, we know what to do.
Fred, take the bathroom.
Yeah, we kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
But we do like to, if it's a place that we've never investigated before, like Jess said, we will, we want to walk around, get to know the place, take the baselines. And me personally, before I really start, pulling out all the equipment and investigating, I just kind of want to sit there and observe and, what are the natural sounds of this place? What does the traffic sound like? What does the shadows look like as the sun's moving through the location?
Yeah, some of these places, they literally have a thickness. There's like this heavy sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think that is? Or is it a placebo in your own brain of knowing what happened?
I honestly don't know that it's a placebo, because what's weird about it is one person can walk in by themselves, and then when the next person walks in the room, they're like, ooh.
And then it'll just go away for no reason. So you don't know, But yeah, physiologically, we're probably one of our best ghost hunting tools. You got to kind of know your own baseline. How do you normally feel under certain circumstances? And then if you feel different or strange or weird, absolutely part of the layers of validation, make sure.
Yeah. Your own personal internal feelings do play a part in it. I'm not saying that like everything I feel is absolutely going to be right, but if I feel like I need to leave somewhere, guess what? I'm probably going to leave somewhere, because it never turns out well when I don't listen.
Yeah, but as for what that heaviness is, again, we can't really tell you a correct answer. Even people who don't claim to be sensitive, though, can sometimes still pick up on that collection of energy and emotions that just, it's kind of like a residue. And one of the places that has absolutely been the most prevalent that I've seen is an antique store in Beckley.
Oh, what? Which one?
Well, it is no longer
not there anymore.
Yeah, it's not there anymore. So I don't want to say it on air because the owner does not own it anymore, and I don't know how the new owners feel about the property.
Gotcha. Okay. So what was going on there?
So the location itself, and there's not just an antique store. There's some other shops, including I don't want to say it. I'm sure if you're from the area or know the thing, you can know.
Put them on blast.
Yeah, put them on blast. There's a child care facility in this location as well.
What, you just don't want a bunch of crazy people showing up. Like, hey, let me check out your hallway there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the antique store itself it's a newer building, but it was built on top of the pool of a former motel, a very popular motel from the 60s. And oh gosh,
that'll raise up. Sorry,
probably
Jess.
Starting from even the late 70s up into the 90s, this hotel motel got a pretty bad reputation of being, where illegal activities were present. And then there's a lot of tragedy associated with the property itself, even before the hotel. But when the hotel was there as well. It's near the site of a very popular murder that I know you've covered on the show.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is the site of mine accidents and mine activity, and a site where a lot of car crashes happen. A police officer was murdered in the parking lot. So there's a lot of negative activity. Plus, there was a lot of people who died of ODs, murders, attempted murders, prostitution. There's a story that we couldn't prove, but a prostitute was murdered in one of the motel rooms. The motel rooms are still there, most of them, not all of them, but they're used as storage for the buildings. And so we had...
And even if you walk in the storage unit, that heavy,
that's that's a whole other story.
I know where you're talking about. Is it near the Beckley city limit sign, or is that... So it was like a hotel that converted to storage units.
So they're not like, storage units for anybody. They're storage units for the people that rent.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's at a major crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's it too, at the crossroads.
It's at a major crossroads.
Seems like was there water nearby?
Yes, there is a creek that runs by as well.
So you had a crossroads, a creek, lots of disasters.
Enough clues, ain't it?
I mean, we've got hundreds of stories from this location, but talking about like that heaviness, it is like it has become its own sentient sludge of all of the negative activity that has gone on in that one little tiny area. And you can pick up on it as soon as you walk into that area. You're like, oh my God, what is that? And physically, we saw it. Going back to the shadow figures, we weren't seeing like, a shadow man. We were seeing what looked like a snake with like tendrils kind of.
Goodness.
Yeah, it was. And all I can have words in the English language to describe it it's like a psychic sludge that has just gathered in this location.
And the feeling, it's like you're in middle school, and then that Cindy Lou and Jessie Lynn are beefing.
Yeah.
And you're like, and you just feel this thing in the air. Everyone in the cafeteria knows that something's going down. It's that way, but the paranormal side.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a really good comparison of it. Like you're looking over your shoulder both ways. Like, when's it going to happen? We're waiting on it.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we went, even if you go to any cemetery, really. I mean, to me, I feel that even the highly commercialized one in Salem, just walking around and just like, whoa, something's here. We did that at Riverview Cemetery in Parkersburg. I don't know if you've ever been there, but they got the weeping woman statue. And
when I was younger, the legend was if you wanted to get pregnant, you touched her.
Oh yeah. Which that's crazy. Did you know that I've about done a story on this, but I was like, this is a little much. There's this statue in like overseas, or this journalist died. And I cannot think of his name, and this is going to be the worst story ever with details. But that's the same thing. They had to put up a fence around it because all kinds of people kept coming for this fertility reason.
Yeah, his private areas are like a different color because where women rub it.
Yes, because there's been so much. Oh, yeah, it's crazy.
That's different.
Yeah,
well, I mean, if it works.
Apparently, it's a thing.
Do you think it works, or do you think it's just releasing their mind, from their?
As many women have touched it, you would think that something.
There's got to be something to it, but humans are creative, overly so sometimes.
That's a little.
Yeah.
Well, there's a cemetery in Lewisburg, the Old Stone Church Cemetery.
Who's the father? I'd say there's a bunch of fathers.
No, if you get pregnant after you rub
Well, I think you also have to have.
Well, you gotta.
No, I know that, but is it the statue that made you pregnant, or is it?
Well, I guess you'll never know. Now
if you DNA test them, it's like, oh, that's not the father.
Now you talk about crazy. If they never did, what you have to do to get pregnant. And then they got pregnant touching the statue, we would have proof. But you just don't, you can't believe a person that says that. But then again, this is getting way too deep. This is like a lot of religious stories has like this kind of beginning.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop talking, okay? But But
You really go on a rabbit hole in this.
I mean, but anyway, y'all look it up. I can't think of the dude's name. He's this French journalist, and he has this statue or monument. Maybe it's at his grave. I think it is his grave.
It's laying
site.
down, I think.
It's laying down.
Wait, it's laying. Oh,
Yes, and
I think
Yeah.
I need to see the statue.
it was somebody posted on
that.
Facebook recently.
Yeah,
I remember seeing it on Facebook.
I instantly was like, I don't know. I'm not making a post about this. This is just a little too awkward, but we can talk about it. I mean, but anyway, yeah, if you want to look it up, You'll find it. There's been a couple viral TikToks about it and different things. But yeah, they had to build a fence around it. And then the people protested and said, tear that fence down. And then they tore the fence down because they were very upset. Yeah, it's like a whole thing.
Well, they had to put a fence up at Lucy Maud Montgomery's grave in Lewisburg because that's the statue that was supposed to be if you kissed it, then you were going to die within so many days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got the one for the fertility and the kissing, the angel mixed up. So that would be a problem if I really wanted. Yeah, that would be a problem.
Oh, big problem. Big problem. If you want
Details
a map,
are important.
Yeah, we need to make. That's what we need. We need to make a blog, a fertility map of all the monuments in West Virginia you can visit if you want some good luck. I'm going to stop talking. I don't know what else to say. There you go. There it is. But all right. So storage units. Did y'all do like a investigation there, or was it because you said you had hundreds?
Yeah, we've done several investigations there. We had a really great relationship with the owner, so he would let us come in and investigate.
It's really sad that he's not with us. I mean, he's
He's
not dead.
alive.
He's not dead, but I mean, he's just not around.
Yeah, he's not running the store anymore.
Gotcha.
I don't even know what they're doing with the building now.
Right.
But yeah, we've investigated multiple times, and I mean, I think we made contact with the prostitute who was allegedly murdered out there. Because she showed herself to both me and Brian of SRI. Like, we both saw her and felt how scared she was, and had, the physical interactions of like, the owner told us, if you really want to rile things up in this one room, put the chain lock on. And as soon as we did that, it was like the room physically got darker. And that's when we started having a whole lot of interactions. That was also where I had my existential crisis.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes. Yeah, my first existential crisis, because I saw something at the store that is not supposed to exist. Like, I can rationalize the existence of ghosts, like, what are ghosts? Maybe it's this theory, maybe it's this theory. That kind of makes sense to me. But what I saw at this store did not make sense in any sense of the word.
Tell me about it.
Okay, so our first investigation there, we knew we were going to do an antique store, and we knew about the history of the location. So we thought, okay, well, we might be getting activity from the land itself, and then we also might be having activity from some of the items that are inside this antique store that have a history. The owner liked to collect things from police auctions and from military auctions. So a lot of stuff that had death and really negative energy attached to it to begin with. But that wasn't we ran into that as well, but what we ran into had nothing to do with either of those. So, after Brian and I had been outside in the motel room and had this experience with the prostitutes, we decided that, okay,
you might want to rephrase that. Yeah.
We had an experience with a prostitute outside.
Take that one out of context. I'm sorry. Keep going.
We interacted with the spirit of a prostitute.
Perfect.
That sounds horrible anyway. Now there is an entire other story that is absolutely not radio
You're going down the rabbit hole again.
I know. I said something on that investigation thinking that it would trigger a spirit, and I will absolutely never live down what I said.
Oh, nice. That's hilarious. You can tell it off camera.
I'll tell it off camera.
Okay.
Okay, but we thought that if we led a group of just females out there, maybe she would be more comfortable with just females.
Sure.
So the rest of the group was inside, and I had a group of girls out there with me, and absolutely nothing happened. We didn't have anything happen at all. So we walked back inside to the actual store, And one of the members pulled me aside and he was like giddy excited. And he's like, Teresa, you're never going to believe this. The owner has this cat monkey thing in the back. And I'm like, excuse me, a cat monkey? What are you talking about? Because my mind was racing like, okay, he has a pet monkey or something back there. Because he collected like spiders and creepy crawly things that he kept at the store as pets. So I was like real excited that there was going to be a monkey back there, that I got to play with a monkey while I was on the investigation. He's like, no. Yeah, you don't understand. He called it an Ovnik, and it's a familial spirit. And I'm like, okay, so tell me more. So they're kind of giving me a basic rundown of what an Ovnik was. And the owner came from a Slavic background. So as long as he can remember, he has had this little creature that has followed his family and has stayed with him as sort of a protective guide or spirit. And it's very akin to like a brownie or house elf in English lore. Basically, in Slavic countries, in this thing, it looks like a little cat or a little capuchin monkey. And if you appeased it and left it offerings, it liked chicken and what amounts to like a Russian sort of pancake called bellini. If you would leave it these offerings, it would be happy. It would, protect your property. If you made it mad, it might burn down your granary. Okay. And it was also, there's stories that, if you're able to reach out and touch this creature like on New Year's Eve, if it allowed you to touch it, you would have good fortune and everything. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Because they had apparently seen this creature while the rest of us were outside. Mm-hmm. I'm like, I'm pretty skeptical about this. So the owner's like, well, if you want to see it, sit on this side of the store. And, everybody else will be on this side of the store. So I'll be by myself. And everybody else was on the other side of the store while he told a story about a haunted hat that he had. So they're talking and he finishes the story. And while I'm in there by myself, I'm sitting on an antique couch and I kind of like maybe see some like weird shadows out of the corner of my eye that kind of look like maybe a cat slinking around some furniture. And I'm like, nah, that's just my mind playing tricks on me. So he finishes the story and he comes back around and he's like, did you see it? And I'm like, well, no, I saw some stuff that was kind of weird, but I don't think that it was this creature. And he's like, well, if you want to see it, it's right there. And he pointed back towards the office where he had this Rubbermaid tote full of stuff that was, about to go out on the floor. And I look, and I have a black cat at home, and it looked identical. It looked like a black cat was peeking its head out of this tote. And I could see its like cute little ears. It had green eyes, which blinked. So I could see that, when its eyes shut and open. And it had like one little like white tooth that was hanging out. It was really cute. It was absolutely cute.
Aww.
And I feel weird, like this thing that a lot of people associate with a nature spirit, calling it cute, but it really was. It was really cute. And I'm like flabbergasted. So I'm staring at this thing and we're walking towards it and we're getting closer and closer. And my mind is just trying to make sense of, oh, that's just a cat. There's a cat in there. What is that? No, that doesn't quite look like a cat. And he reached towards it. And as he reached toward it, it swooped out of existence. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. It swooped out of existence. And he took everything out of the tote. There was nothing in there that could even resemble a black cat. Nothing black in there at all. And so he's kind of laughing at this point because I'm like, I can't speak. I can't think. And he's like, well, why didn't you take a picture of it? And I'm like, picture? What's a picture? Camera? Like, what's a camera? Because my mind was still like trying to process what this creature was.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, that's got to be a surreal feeling. Like, is this really happening?
And I would not believe it. And I still have, I question myself today, but so many people
I was
saw
say
that.
A bunch of other groups have seen the same thing.
Mm-hmm. There's something
at different times.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to take a shot of liquor now. The phone went off. No, I'm kidding. Well, that's fantastic. So I clicked Haunted Ohio just out of curiosity. Are these places you have been? Have you been to all these places?
No, most of those I haven't been to.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. So you kind of do some research and write-ups and you haven't necessarily been to all the locations. Gotcha.
And there's a lot of places that I've been that I just haven't gotten around.
Yeah, well, just West Virginia alone, there's got to be over 100, hundreds of places. And And yeah, this has been an excellent resource for me. So I don't even know. I feel like I owe you.
For so many people.
It's always like, it makes me feel really happy that, I mean, and I don't know. I have that like whole, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a really cool feeling when, you know, I pick up a book like Rosemary Ellen Guiley's book about haunted West Virginia. I'm in that, like in the acknowledgments. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've found my name in a couple other books. I wish these people would tell me or give me a free book when they're going to use me, but.
Sure. Yeah. I'll make sure to tag you often.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll probably even end up putting you, we're building it, which we got our website released, but I need to put a link to your blog on there because it is just so handy. I mean, just like you look and it's got Eastern Panhandle, Potomac Highlands, got everything sectioned off into counties and where they're located, and what's Mountaineer Country?
So yeah, that's like the area around Grafton and Morgantown.
Gotcha.
Those are based off of the original sections from the West Virginia Tourism Board.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
they've changed them since that. Like I said, this started in like 2006, so it needs to be updated so bad. There's a bunch of locations on there that I need to completely redo, but. Yeah. There's so much weirdness in West Virginia to cover. And I started out just with haunted places, but then my interest started to expand. And so now I talk about UFOs and cryptids and anything that's weird and unusual and
haunted
objects and ghost hunting articles.
Yeah, that's our favorite cryptid.
Oh, that's like asking me my favorite child. I think I'm obligated to say Mothman, living so close to Point Pleasant.
Right. Mothman. I mean, it's a good choice. We're making a movie, a narrative, scripted narrative about the Mothman that hopefully will release in December. I'm going to try and get it on the day of the Silver, although it has nothing to do with the Silver Bridge.
My husband had family that were on the Silver Bridge going. His sister, his mom and dad were going to a Christmas party in Ohio. Were on the bridge, got across the bridge, but some of their family did not.
Oh, wow.
That was headed for a Christmas party, and they passed away on the bridge.
Goodness.
When it fell.
That's awful.
Yeah. So we have, a connection to that as well.
Would that be your favorite too?
Yeah, it probably would have to be that or Bigfoot, possibly. It's kind of like.
West Virginia's got so many really things. One-off, unique cryptids.
They're all a little different, and they all have. Yeah, I don't know.
What about the Veggie Man? You know that lore?
I love the Veggie Man, but oh my gosh, that whole story with Jennings Frederick and Gray Barker.
What is the story?
I want to believe so badly that happened.
No one's ever told the Veggie Man. Well, let's see. I think Liz Pavlik.
Mm-hmm.
You may know her.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think she kind of lightly told that story. But what is the Veggie Man? Let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm definitely no Veggie Man expert. But back in the 60s, I think he was a Marine veteran at the time. But Jennings Frederick was out shooting woodchucks with a bow and arrow outside of Fairmont, West Virginia. And he felt this kind of like pokey sting in his arm. And so at first he thought that it was just like, brambles or something. And he looked down and then he looked up and there was this 7 foot tall, and all of the illustrations, he looks like a big stalk of celery with like big crazy eyes. But it was this creature and he had like suction cup pointy fingers and was attached to this guy's arm, and he's sucking the blood out of this guy's arm, even though he really didn't feel anything. But he could see the blood, go up to this creature had yellow eyes, and they started to turn red as his blood was drained from him. And this creature kind of made this telepathic communication with him that, I'm your friend. I come in peace. I need medical assistance. And he finished, I guess, draining as much blood as he needed for medical assistance. And then he kind of leapt and bounded up the hill. And then they heard Jennings Frederick heard this whirring sound. And they assumed that was like the UFO or whatever taking Veggie Man away.
That's metal. I didn't realize that was. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
They have a whole festival for the Veggie Man.
They just started last year. He's getting the recognition he finally deserves.
Which we're filming next week near Grafton, and they have actually have the festival on. Is it on the week of the 13th?
I think so.
I think the Grafton Monster.
Yeah, 2 weeks from this weekend. So yeah, I think it's.
Yeah. Well, how fun. All right, y'all. Who all are we plugging here? We got a bunch of good, cool groups. I know West Virginia Unseen follows the page, and they've been sharing stuff.
Yep.
What do we let people know that maybe want to get into this?
Well, I know that we have some upcoming things. If they would like to investigate with Teresa and I, and our group, they could come and we'll feed them for $25. You get fed and you get, several hours of ghost hunting. So, and the history.
And we provide the equipment for you. You're welcome to bring your own equipment, but we provide equipment for you to use. We show you how to use it, show you, kind of what to do, and, let you really get a taste for ghost hunting if you're really kind of new to this field and don't want to go out and invest with a bunch of stuff first. You can get a good little taste of it with us first.
Yeah.
Our first one's June 7th at the Mountaineer Hotel. And that one's in what? Mount Hope?
Oh, that'll be a good one.
Yeah. And then Lake Shawnee will be June 21st.
Yep. It's the first ever Haunt Fest. It'll be at Lake Shawnee, June 21st. We've got so many vendors coming. People selling all sorts of spooky merchandise. It'll be free to go to the vendor area, but it'll be $25 to actually enter the park proper, where you'll have access to speakers. We've got some great speakers, workshops,
sideshow people.
There's going to be a sideshow there, tours of Lake Shawnee. And if you want to stick around till 8 o'clock, from 8 to 12, included in your price of admission is a ghost hunt at Lake Shawnee.
And then there's also an opportunity to camp overnight, but that is going to be done through Lake Shawnee.
Yeah, if you're coming from out of town,
charge, but it's still less than what the normal charge is.
Yeah, it'll be a discounted price if anybody wants to spend the night at Lake Shawnee.
Awesome. Who do they reach out to? Where can they?
If you're interested in being a vendor or buying tickets to Haunt Fest, you want to hit the Appalachian Ghost Tours Facebook page. That's probably the best way to contact us. And if you need to purchase accommodations, camping overnight there, then you need to contact Chris at Lake Shawnee.
Yeah, Chris, I'm trying to get him in on the podcast. It's tough to tie him down. But Lake Shawnee, what's the backstory there? Do you know it, Teresa? Set up these stories that you say you are not prepared for, and then you completely nail.
So I have a hot take on Lake Shawnee about one of the main stories. I've done a lot of research on Lake Shawnee, and yeah, I have absolutely found proof of the massacre that happened there, the Clay Mitchell massacre.
What is that?
So much very similar to the Graham House. There was a Native American raid on a pioneer family living in the area, and a couple of the children were murdered, a couple of the adults were murdered, and a couple were, the one child was taken prisoner, kidnapped, but they later killed him in retaliation. So a couple of the children are buried there on the property. But the Native American presence there dates back even further to that. In the 1980s, there was an archaeological dig, and they found that there was a huge encampment settlement area right there, and there were so many bodies that were found.
Wow.
So there's like a shrine that is there too, at the beginning of the field where a lot of them were buried. So super active near the shrine. And then you get into the park.
Yeah, in 1926, it was a real successful little, park. They had a swimming pool, a lake, all kinds, campgrounds. It was a really popular little park. They had amusement rides from 1926 up until 1966, when the Snowdo family had owned it. And there were deaths associated with it. I've got a handful of drownings listed on my website that we were able to confirm. But the main ghost that everybody's really, really concerned about is the little girl that died on the swings when
we can't really
confirm
100% that
a cola truck
happened.
pulled up and she hit the back of it.
Hold on. Okay, tell me the story.
Okay, so the story is that, and nobody can tell us exactly what decade this happened in, even though people were like, oh yeah, I've seen the death certificates. I have not seen the death certificates. I've gone through all of the death certificates I can find. Haven't found any newspaper articles. So if anybody does have historical documentation, please reach out to me and give it to me so we can put this to bed. But the story is that this little girl was on the swing ride. So this swing ride, was going around, and Coca-Cola or Pepsi truck or whatever had pulled up to a nearby concession stand, and it had backed up. And as it was backing up, the swing came around and the little girl hit into it and was killed instantly. So the swing, after it closed down in 1966, it was sold to another park. But in the 1980s, when they were trying to, the original family purchase, or it wasn't the original family, it was the family of a guy who worked there in the 60s. He purchased it with his family, and they were trying to revive the park. So as they were looking for amusement rides, they say that they found the swing at another place, and when they checked the serial number, it was the same swing from before. So the swing is not in its original spot where it was when the accident allegedly happened. But the swing, they say, is, the same one. And there's one seat in particular that is like a shrine to this little girl. And everybody has had some sort of experience as a swing will swing by itself, or they'll get weird EMF hits on it, even though there's no electricity in that area. But we can't find anything that shows this little girl survived. They've got names out there for her, and I've looked up the names, and I can't find any documentation that these people ever existed. And what I kind of think is happening is, I think people are having legitimate experiences with what they think is a little girl. But I think that they've had that story ingrained for so long, because Lake Shawnee, this was a place that's been on TV since like the 90s. It was on Scariest Places on Earth with Susan Shepard when she did a thing there. So everybody that's interested in the paranormal knew the story. I think they've created some sort of tulpa or thought form, and that's what they're interacting with, thinking that it's the spirit of this little girl that died.
Oh, yeah? Like a thought form. What do you mean? Like a collective? Yeah,
like they've put so much energy into, this little girl is right here, that it's like the Philip experiment, where the people, they got together and they made up this backstory of this guy that never existed. And so when they started playing the Ouija board, they started interacting with this guy with this backstory, but then it grew like it was its own sentient being, and it started like, extra information coming out. And
I love that.
It's an interesting theory. It's a theory that why a lot of theaters are haunted, because as an actor, you put your heart and soul into these characters. And what if that character just kind of separated from you and became...
You leave part of yourself and you become its own entity.
Its own entity.
Yeah, Adrian told me about stone tape theory.
Yeah, definitely. And that's a little bit different than this, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's what basically these structures hold memories and energy that replay over time, stuff like that.
And we feel that they're mostly completely, those aren't not sentient like the thought form would be. That's just like a tape playing over and over again. You can't really interact with it, but you might be able to stir whatever is recording that up enough to kind of where you can.
Yeah, it's like the building has ADHD.
Yeah.
Like I just sit there. I think I have stone tape theory in my brain. I'm just like, there's this daggone reel that was released on TikTok where these guys redid this song, and it's called Plug Walk. And I keep replaying that freaking song in my head over and over. And I'm like, I need medication. And I'm just sitting there thinking, like, is this the time? Like, do I need to go get medication? Because I can't shut this off. But
I can't function without it.
Yeah. Man. I get it. All right. I just want to keep on hearing stories.
I'm sure we got plenty.
I mean, I'm down. Well, I'm looking here. So it's got New River, Greenbrier Valley. Have you ever investigated cryptids in the area? Like, did you go to Point Pleasant or?
So I have a little bit. about 2 years ago, we worked with Uncovering History to investigate the Mothman. And that was very interesting because their theory that, you know, they were filming for was that Mothman was a demon. I don't believe with that theory myself, but it was very interesting to go out there with an actual reverend to the TNT area and try to communicate with what was ever out there.
Mm-hmm. Did you do the whole same the same meters and the whole process?
Yeah, we still used all the same meters and everything. We had the two main guys of the show. We had them both do a double Estes method back to back, and again, they were sitting there talking to each other the whole time. It was really crazy.
Yeah, and did you watch the Unsolved Mysteries Mothman, where they pretty much took him out of West Virginia entirely, and it's like in Chicago and all these different other places?
He's been seen all over the place.
Say that he's actually been seen all over the world.
Oh, okay.
That have seen a Mothman like that.
I think he's a good guy.
It always seems to be a harbinger of, you know, something bad that's coming. And does he cause the bad thing? I don't think so. I think he tries to
help,
give the warning. So I don't really see him as a demon myself, because why would a demon warn you that, hey, you better get off this bridge because it's going to fall?
Yeah.
I mean,
and some people may not know the original story. Do you know the original story enough to tell? Set it up.
Yeah, I could probably go through a little bit of it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, so and it really honestly didn't even start in Point Pleasant in 1966. That's kind of when things just really blew up. And a lot of the stories from before that came out afterwards. But there are stories of a creature like Mothman that was seen in Huntington and other places in West Virginia way before this. But the Point Pleasant story is what everybody associates with Mothman. And that was in, November of 1966. There was two couples. They were hanging out doing what young couples do out in the TNT area when they saw this thing, and they didn't even call it Mothman at the time because it really doesn't resemble a moth. It looked more like a bird. And they went in the town. This thing allegedly chased them going over 100 miles per hour, had big glowing red eyes. My favorite part is its muscular legs that everybody, everybody that's seen it, there's a lot of conflicting, was it gray? Was it black? Was it really dark brown? Was it feathered? Was it more leathery? But everybody really focuses on those red eyes. But yeah, the Scarberry mallet sightings were really where this picked up, and that's what got John Keel, the famous Fortean researcher, involved in the whole thing. But I don't know, it's kind of interesting because it's so much deeper than just those 1966 sightings, and it really brought a lot of attention to Point Pleasant because it wasn't just those 4 kids that saw this. And I know people that are more knowledgeable, there's so many details that it would take me like 3 episodes to go over everything that happened, even on that first night.
Sure.
But yeah, it really put Point Pleasant on the map as being this area of high strangeness, because for the next, over a year, people were seeing not just Mothman out in the Point Pleasant area, out around other areas around the state. He was seen in Charleston. He was seen in St. Albans. But they were also around Point Pleasant. The ghost sightings were going up. People were seeing UFOs. People were seeing other types of cryptids. People were having really strange psychic experiences. And one of the most prominent psychic experiences that a lot of people were having was right before the bridges fell. And a lot of people had these visions of packages floating in the Ohio River and seeing cars falling. And so a lot of people who were supposed to be on the Silver Bridge that day didn't go on the Silver Bridge that day because they felt something was stopping them from doing that. So now we know Point Pleasant is this huge window area. I don't know. What else do you...
I love it. Yeah. Do you know the person who made the statue?
Yeah, he actually lived in my neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God, what's his name? It's Bob something, isn't it?
Didn't his daughter buy the copyright to the statue?
Yes, he passed away recently. So his daughter, I think, now has the copyright because she was working with my brother-in-law. He works at Charleston Blueprint. It's a little plug for Charleston Blueprint about some material.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he also did the statues of, I think it's Chief Cornstalk and a couple other people on the other side of the flood wall.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know the legend of Chief Cornstalk, where he put a curse.
I forgot to talk about Chief Cornstalk's curse.
Yeah. Well, and correct me if I'm wrong, but basically, he what was he? I'm not even going to try. Basically, he was a chief that, on his dying breath, cursed the town of Point Pleasant because I guess, I don't know, the pilgrims there ended up killing him.
Oh yeah, okay. So the kind of a little bit of backstory about that. So yeah, Chief Cornstalk had gone, and that was when the relations were very poor between the Shawnee and other tribes and, the white pioneers. So he had actually gone to kind of warn them that, hey, I'm trying to stay neutral in this, but you all better get your stuff together because there's going to be trouble. And there was some back and forth about what actually happened, but he was taken captive and held at the fort. So while he was there was a hunting party that went out and killed some Native Americans. And then I guess one of the white settlers was also killed. There was some back and forth about who was to blame. And so in retaliation, Chief Cornstalk, as well as his son, who had come to the fort and was taken captive there as well, both of them were killed. And there's this huge flower, like the original curse was this huge flowery speech that he took with his dying breath. I was friends with a white man and you betrayed me. There's no way that he actually said that. That actually came from a play that the school put on later. That whole big speech. Gotcha. But there were rumblings about the curse even back in the mid 1800s. If you look at old newspaper articles, and some of them are like tongue in cheek and some of them are a little bit more serious, but they did believe that Chief Cornstalk cursed that area from ever becoming a prosperous area. And there's so many things that have happened in town that seem to fulfill that. And there's newspaper articles that's hilarious that it's been 100 years after the death. We think the curse is over now. It's only for 100 years. Well, 150 years go by. Well, maybe the curse is over now. Well, 200 years go by and the curse still seems to be there. And they think that maybe Mothman, as a Thunderbird type spirit, was part of the curse or sent by Chief Cornstalk.
Love it. Well, y'all, you're going to have to come back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got a lot of stories. I mean, we haven't even touched on some weird stuff that's happened recently. So.
Well, Jess, let me know one of them before you leave. Hit silent on that phone before I forget. I'm so sorry.
No, we're sorry. It's mine is over here vibrating too, and I'm like, oh,
it's all right.
It's the same people.
Y'all are popular. They're like,
well, I have a husband with medical issues that I have to.
Oh,
make
yeah.
Sure
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah,
make sure nobody is dying. That's we weren't trying to.
Yeah, make sure.
My kid was calling as I was like, man, it's
stop it. Yeah.
Someone's messaging good. Teresa's like, hey, we found contact. Answer the phone.
Probably.
What are you doing? So yeah, what happened recently, Jess?
So one of the things that we've been noticing a lot, and it not only just in the paranormal, like ghost stuff, we're talking cryptids, UFO sightings. One of the weird things that we're noticing is a change in frequency. So if you want a new piece of equipment to check into a spectrum analyzer, that will let you know and I'm still trying to learn how to work ours. So I'm not.
And Joe and Ron will give you the whole breakdown.
Yeah, they will give you the
Ask
whole.
Joe and Ron.
Spectrum analyzer. I need to really sit down with them and have them teach me more. But I went into when we were at Campbell Flanagan house. I went in there and I had a tuning fork. And I changed the frequency of sound in the room and I hit it really hard. And when it hit a certain tone, we're both like, ooh. But not only that, everything changed. When I mean everything changed, I mean everything changed. It went from a nice little chat in this nice little sun porch room to what the heck was that? I mean, from seeing what looks like a full body person walking across the room to just this weird feeling of dread to odd ties to the clan.
Goodness.
Yeah. And then we find in the closet a book on how they weren't happy in that area. It was something about against desegregation, so they wanted to keep segregation in
Good
the area.
Lord.
Hinton has a history of some clan activity.
It wasn't great history, but I mean, we found that right after this whole, oh, okay, then
we weren't expecting that aspect to come up.
Not at all.
But then when we really started thinking about it, as prevalent as that group was, it is very possible that the very prominent owner of the house might have been involved in some of those activities because he was a prominent citizen and that's just what you did.
And I'm also pretty kind of thinking that maybe the ladies in the house might have been a little witchy. Like they were meaning their little teas might have been a little different.
I'm working on a whole article about how I think Hinton is also a window area like Point Pleasant, because there is so many ghost sightings around Hinton. There's so many UFO sightings, but there's this kind of, like she said, like a witchiness, not only just to the women of the Campbell Flanagan mural house, but something drew, the Wiccan guy to start his Wicca correspondence school there. There's a reason why all these... Yeah.
Is that there now? Or no, back then?
I think, the guy has passed away and his wife has passed away, but I think they still have an office there. They have an address there. Yeah, it's like a Wicca correspondence school.
Nice. They pay B&O taxes?
Yeah.
Okay. In Hinton? Man, that's...
And then all these like creative types like moved in like in the 90s, and it's a really weird area.
I love Hinton. You just go in, you're like, you got the road going in and the road going out. And then the beautiful...
But the whole area that you're in there is all we've done houses and stuff all through there, and we're about to do a whole town-wide...
Yeah, so is it September 13th?
I think that one's the September 13th one.
Yeah, unfortunately it's the same weekend as Mothman Festival, but it is... Well, no.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's the weekend before.
The last.
Yeah, it's the same weekend as Flatwoods Monster Festival. But Hinton is having a whole town-wide paranormal festival.
That's awesome. How many investigations y'all do a year?
We're doing like 3 a month right now. It seems like
every weekend almost.
We have maybe one off here and there.
It used to average for me about one a month. Since I joined Appalachian Ghost Tours, we do a lot.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you all for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, we're going to do this again. Everyone, be sure to check out Teresa's blog, West Virginia Unseen. I know they're on Facebook. Check out Appalachian Ghost Tours for a good old time of, potentially terrifying events for the small price of $20 to $25. They will feed you. What kind of food we talking? Pepperoni rolls?
Oh, well, maybe. But everything from fancy dinners to finger foods. We've done a little bit of all of it.
Heck yeah. Well, cool. Well, thank you all. Everyone else, before you leave, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Creepalachia on YouTube. And if you're listening to the podcast version on Apple or Spotify, be sure to leave a review. That'll really help the show be found. And we are on Facebook and on TikTok. And last but not least, everyone always remember, above all else, long live Appalachia.